Welcome to the E-commerce Badassery Podcast, the place for scrappy female entrepreneurs who want to learn actionable steps and strategies to grow the traffic, sales, and profit in your e-commerce business. I'm your host, Jessica Totillo-Coster, a 20-year retail veteran who spent 3 years as the only employee of a 7-figure online store. That shit was crazy. I know exactly how it feels to do all the things, and I'm sharing everything I learned the hard way so you don't have to. I may have started this business by accident, but supporting badass bosses like you lights me the fuck up, and I am so stoked to see you grow. Are you ready, babe? Let's roll. Welcome back to the E-commerce Badassery Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Totillo-Coster. Today's episode is one of those that felt so important to get out that I rearranged my podcast schedule to make sure I could publish it sooner rather than later. I had something similar on the books based on a podcast episode my Lounge co-host and go-to ad strategist Nicole Dietrich released about how little most businesses owned by women make. In that episode, she quotes some statistics that are pretty disheartening, and it really reminded me of why I do what I do. As I said before, I'm not a man hater by any means. I know men listen to this podcast, there are men in the lounge, and I'm happy to work with male clients. But at the end of the day, there just doesn't seem to be as much support for women. Or maybe we're just not as inclined to seek it out, or we don't have the support or mindset we need to focus on our businesses the way men do. I'll stick a link in the show notes so you can check that episode out and the rest of her podcast if you haven't discovered it yet. It's called Master Making Money with Your Marketing. The thing that prompted me to release this episode now, though, was a conversation I had with a biz friend. I'm also a customer, and I got a marketing email from her, which prompted me to reach out and see how she's doing. Talk about being top of mind. She's had a lot going on in the back end of her business because she's planning to sell eventually. And I know that she was having a bit of a tough time earlier in the year. I actually talked about it on episode 197, what to do when business feels hard, you feel stuck, or you're in a rut. Anyway, so we started chatting. I asked her how she was, and she said, "You caught me on a good day, but I've definitely been on the struggle bus." Then she asked how I was and how business was, and I told her I was struggling a bit too. I won't go into all the details here, but let me just say that being married to an entrepreneur when you're also an entrepreneur and you recently bought a home and increased your living expenses and you're also trying to rejig the back end of your business while keeping the lights on is a whole different level of pressure. And don't get me wrong, we're not going to be homeless or starving, and I'm so grateful for what we do have, but the struggle is real sometimes. And when I told her that I was struggling, her response was, "Really? It seems like you're killing it." And that's the thing. When we look at most business owners from the outside, it seems like they've got it all figured out. Like everything is sunshine and rainbows, because we're not talking about the struggle, at least not publicly. I talk to a lot of e-commerce business owners, and a lot of them are struggling in one way or another. I've talked to other business owners who have businesses like me, and I think, damn, they've really got it figured out. And then I get the real talk from them, and they tell me some days they're ready to just burn the whole fucking thing down. And these are people who have been around longer than me, have bigger businesses than me, and seem like they have the business I want. Here's the thing, and you've heard me say this before. It doesn't matter how things look on the outside. You have no idea what's going on in the back end of someone else's business. And what I would say to you is if you are finding yourself getting jealous of someone else or feeling like you don't know what the fuck you're doing or like you absolutely suck, please, please, please remind yourself that that other business owner you're looking at is thinking the same thing about themselves. And for all you know, they're looking at you and thinking, shit, they've really got it figured out. We are all fighting our own battles in business and in this life. The best thing we can do is reach out for support, whether that's joining a membership like the Lounge, so you're surrounded by other e-commerce business owners and mentors, connecting directly with biz friends, however you do it, you just have to be open and honest about what you're going through to get the support that you need. Most of us don't want to talk about it unless we hear someone else talk about it. And it's the same thing I tell you when it comes to collaborating with other businesses. Someone has to go first. Let that someone be you. And look, there is no guarantee that the person you talk to is going to be able to solve all your problems. In fact, in most cases, they won't. But hearing another perspective, asking questions you hadn't thought of, knowing that you're not alone, or even just getting the opportunity to say something out loud can be so powerful. And sometimes that's truly all we need. Think of it like a brain dump. I love a good brain dump when I'm feeling overwhelmed because when I have a whole bunch of shit swirling around in my head, it can be really hard for me to focus. I dump it all out on paper, and even though I know I can't possibly get it all done right now, and it's certainly not a to-do list, getting it out on paper just clears up the chaos and allows me to focus. The same thing can happen when you finally get what you're struggling with out in the open. And it doesn't just help you, it helps whoever you're saying it to. Because as I said earlier, there's a pretty good chance that they're struggling with something too. I was also recently listening to a podcast that Larissa Loden started, the world's okayest entrepreneur podcast. I absolutely love the name. She's hosting it with a partner, and the second episode they released was Andrew interviewing her about her journey from art teacher to full-time jewelry business owner. She also shared a lot of struggles she had along the way, including when she lost the majority of her business during the pandemic and how she pushed her way through it all. If you were to look at her business from the outside, you'd probably think she had it all figured out and that it was smooth sailing. But hearing her story is a great reminder that rarely is that what's actually going on behind the scenes. And you don't actually have to have it all figured out to have a successful business. Most of us are just figuring this shit out as we go. And I'll stick a link in the show notes so you can check it out. My favorite thing she said in that episode is sometimes you just have to muscle your way through. You are resilient, you will figure it out, and live to see another day in your business. But know that she didn't do it alone. She worked with coaches, service providers, and she's built a really great team. She leans on others to help her figure shit out, and you need to do that too. Remember, I'm here for you and have plenty of ways I can support you if you need it. I'll stick some additional links in the show notes for those, along with the podcast episodes I mentioned here today. I hope that if nothing else, this episode gave you the reminder that you needed, that you are not alone. There is nothing wrong with you if you are struggling right now, and your best next step is always to reach out for support. And that's a wrap. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you on the flip side, friend. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful if you'd leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're looking to surround yourself with more product entrepreneurs who totally get your life right now, get your booty on over to the E-commerce Badassery Facebook group. Can't wait to see you there. Until next time, e-commerce friends, stay badass.